Today we're going to be graphing absolute value functions, and we're going to describe their translations of their shifts, so similar to last time about vertical and horizontal shifts. Absolute value. You might not remember this from way back when, but absolute value was these bars, so you'd have like -4 bars around it. The absolute value is describing its total distance from 0. So like -4 would be right here, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 spots from 0, so the absolute value of -4 would be 4. Now we're going to be looking at absolute value graphs. What they look like are V's, so very similar to parabolas but not curved, and they have a linear slope, so their slope stays consistent. And the parent function is y equals the absolute value of x, and we can look at the graph here similar to the parent function of a parabola. It starts at 0, 0, but its slope is nice and easy to do. It's just a slope of -1 and 1 on each side. We can use the graphing calculator to graph absolute values, but graphing them by hand is very easy. But just how to do with a calculator, so make sure you have a calculator available. You're going to still start off with y equals, where you would type in the equation. But to find the absolute value function, these bars, you're going to go to the math button. It's below the green button. If you push that, you're going to see a screen that looks like this. You need to arrow over till it's highlighting number, the second one over. And the very first option is going to say apps with a parenthesis. That's absolute value. If you push enter on that, it's going to take you back to the y equals button, and you should be seeing the bars right there and there with the cursor in the middle. So you can type things within the absolute value, like you could type an x, and then you could type things outside the absolute value by arrowing over, and you can type more things out here. Let's start by just graphing the parent function. So the parent function is y equals absolute value of x. So let's start over. Go to y equals. Push the math button. Arrow over to number. And you can either push enter or push 1. It's going to take you back to the y equals. You should just have the bars right there and the cursor in the middle. All you need to do is type the x right there in the middle. Now push graph, and you should see something that looks very similar to this. And you can check the points on the table. So if you go second graph, see if these points are where it is. You can see its vertex point is at 0, 0. But you can see their slopes are linear. They just go up 1 over 1. Example 2, we're going to graph some basic absolute value functions and describe their shifts. Very similar to last time, we're going to have both vertical and horizontal shifts. The +4 is away from the x or outside of the absolute value. That makes it a vertical shift. And when it says plus, it means you're going to go up, subtract, or negative, you mean going down. Now you can graph this using the graphing calculator, or absolute values are very easy to graph. All I'm going to be doing is taking what my parent function would be at 0, 0 and shifting it up 4. And the slopes are very easy. They're linear slopes of 1. So up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. On the other side, a slope of -1. Up 1 to the left 1, up 1 to the left 1. So draw with straight lines, and they're going to be a V, no curve, except that's not very straight. There is your absolute value graph. If we had to describe the shift, we would say shift up 4. Now the second graph has a -2 within the absolute value. This has the same idea of when we had the parentheses. It's going to be opposite of what you think. It's going to be a horizontal shift, but since it says -2, we're really going to go to the right 2. If it said +2, go to the left 2. Again, you can graph it using your calculator, or you can do it by hand. I'm going to move to the right 2, put a dot, and have my linear slope of 1. So up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, and -1. Very easy graphs. I can graph them the whole way through, or you can use your graphing calculator and use the table to help plot. Example 3, we're going to add the idea of reflections. Now reflection is like the mirror image. Now we're going to type this one in the calculator to see what it looks like. So follow along. Go to y equals. Start by typing that negative. This negative is going to be our reflection. Let's see what happens. Now to get the absolute value, you're going to push the math button. Arrow over till it highlights the number. And click one where it has apps. So now you should have negative and these absolute values with the cursor in the middle. In the middle, will you type the x plus 3, then just arrow over so you can do this minus 2. Now push graph and let's see what it looks like. You just see an absolute value, but now it's flipped upside down, so it's like going to be a upside down V or a pyramid. So you can still graph them very easily, either use the graph table or by hand, and we have shifts again. The one inside the absolute value, that's our horizontal, but it's opposite. So instead of to the right 3, we're going to go to left 3. Outside is your vertical. So my shift is going to be to the left 3 and down 2. And you can check that point out on your graph. Now the reflection comes from this negative, so I'm still going to have a slope of 1, but it's going to be -1 and +1 opposite sides. So I'm going to go down 1 over 1, 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 and repeat. So here's my V. It's just been reflected upside down, and it has also shifted to the left 3 and down 2. Last example, pause and try this one on your own. Can you graph it and describe all the shifts and changes? Use a calculator or do it by hand. Okay, either way you graphed it, either a calculator or by hand, you should have shifted to the right 4 and up 4 and had a reflection going down, so you should have an absolute value that goes like this. And if you were asked to describe the shifts like you will on your homework, you would say reflected. And you would also say shift right 4 and shift up 4. Do you feel good on this? Awesome. Grab the homework. If not, rewatch the video. Look at the additional resources. If you're struggling on how to use the calculator, ask a neighbor to help you out.